Hello, everybody. We're here once again with the Stop Genocide campaign. Every day we are working hard, talking to various people across the globe. And genocide, what are we going to do about it, right? Defenseless civilian population being plummeted across the region in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, and even in Israel. So how are we all going to come together to stop this genocide, right? Always we have this situation where the whole issue of genocide is subject to political abuse across the globe. Now, to my right, I have here a wonderful guest, Mr. Patrick Kitterick. He's a councillor for the Green Party. And to my left here, we have Abdul Mehta. He is not at all interested in any parties. He just wants this to stop. That is what he's here for. Now, all of you've listened to one of the podcasts we did, and we continue to do them because we need to find solutions. We don't want to now talk about 200-year-old, 300-year-old history. We need to find a solution now. There are children, there are babies being killed as we speak. Every 15 minutes, one baby is losing its life. Hospitals are being plummeted. And today in the news we heard that the thermo weapon was used in a hospital, which is normally designed for tunnels. And every day we see news that is manipulating people out there. And this has got to stop. We need to see real fact. Now, we're not there on the ground. Everything is hearsay, that when somebody will say in the news that there are 300 miles of tunnels 60 meters down, and that's why we are bombing them. Now, nothing makes sense. Patrick, where are we with this?
I've been very clear about the first thing is we need to have is a ceasefire. We literally need to stop killing people, and that's the immediate necessity, absolutely vital. And then moving on, we need the long-term political solution, which has been everybody's ignored ever since Oslo. Oslo was a way of getting an agreement around the future of Palestine and Israel living together. But ever since Oslo, people have been allowed not to negotiate, not to treat the Palestinian people as having any right or any power over their future. So we ceasefire now and we build for a political solution.
So we do hear from our politicians in England always some explicit explanations that Israel have to defend themselves, they have the right to defend themselves. Now, I'm going to ask you, Patrick, how can you defend yourself when you are the occupier?
Yeah, we all know what the phrase Israel has the right to defend itself actually means. It means that Israel can do whatever it likes, it can break all sorts of international laws, it can commit war crimes, and we'll back it up. And when you hear the phrase, Israel has the right to defend itself, that is explicitly what it means. It means that the usual rules around humanity, even the rules of the conduct of war, are completely put to one side. And it's disgraceful. Anybody using the phrase, Israel has the right to defend itself, should be called out for defending war crimes.
Now, I'm going to ask all of you right now, we have to follow the news, and today's news was that Suella Braverman, she's married to a Jewish husband, and he used to have a falafelicious. That was his business. Now, of what relevance is that to me, Abdul Mehta?
Absolutely not.
Do you like falafel?
I love falafel. I love hummus as well. I love hummus more.
Yeah.
Look.
And she has relations and family in the IDF, which is the force in Israel.
Yeah.
And what that kind of news? How is that going to help us stop genocide?
Look, it's I fear, and I'm afraid to say this, but I think we're kind of at the end game of this ethnic cleansing. Remember, it started a long time ago, but the narrative from the American government, the UK, the European Union, basically they've been given license to kill. Words like animals, subhuman, and not one politician has spoken up against this. Not one. Right? Everyone has kind of been speaking from the same hymn sheet. They've dehumanized Palestinians. I fear that this is the end game, and they are going to go through with pounding Gaza. At worst, what they'll do is they'll empty northern Gaza, which they already have, and effectively use that as another buffer zone. So, more land grab, and then, give you a ceasefire, appease you again, say nice things, or we talk about two-state solution. I've completely lost faith and hope in the Oslo Accords. Right, it's been 30 years since 1993 when Oslo Accords, it was agreed in the year 2000. Right, it's been 23 years since the agreement was actually signed, and not 1 inch of Palestine has sprung up. The Palestine doesn't exist.
Okay, so you are speaking to many of your community friends and your family and the community at large. What are they saying? Are they saying a single state or a two-state?
Most people, if you offer them two-state now, right, I think we're beyond where Israel is a reality. Israel has a right to exist. Okay, that's that's written in stone now. So the best we can hope for is a two-state solution. Is it going to happen? Well, it hasn't happened for 30 years. Why would it happen now?
Well, we're getting a lot of feedback already that UK was implicit in 1917 to create this problem, and they should step forward and fix this problem and aim for the two-state solution. Patrick, what do you say from the Green Party?
I think it's a case of the people who will deliver this solution is the people who live in the lands of Israel and Palestine. And I think that what we've got to do from here in this country is to support that process. But the process doesn't happen because the Palestinians have been written out of the picture. They are completely ignored. Just before the recent horrendous events in Israel and Palestine, negotiations were going on between states that completely excluded the Palestinian people from there. And therefore, we need to support a process, be it going back to Oslo or be it a new process. But the key thing is that the Israelis and the Palestinians have to be placed at the centre of that. I fear that sometimes waiting for the powers of the British government and the British Empire to come in and sort stuff out has not had a very good history. Yeah, we therefore need to support a solution where those two peoples come together and get a solution between themselves.
A comment from one of our listeners: if the IRA have bombed Manchester, Brighton and London, then do we, the British government, go and bomb Ireland and kill all the civilians there?
No, and the thing is that that had what we look in the island of Ireland today is a triumph, an absolute triumph of a peace process where people were brought together. The parties in there, the Catholics, the Protestants, the Nationalists and the Unionists came and they were brought together into a solution. So actually it showed when Israel says the only way to defend ourselves, the only way to secure peace is to kill hundreds of children every single day. Well, that didn't happen in Ireland. But if you went to anybody, Israeli or Palestinian, and you said you can swap what you have now for what we have in the island of Ireland now, they'd bite your hand off. And how was that achieved? That was by recognising the fact that the nationalist community had equality of rights to their future as a unionist community.
So if the IRA are plummeting England, and the world is saying that the IRA have the right to defend themselves, would that be permissible?
No, if you look at the modern history, the recent history of Ireland, it all began to come apart when the IRA planted a bomb in Warrington and 2 small kids died. And what happened at that point is people on all sides of it went, we must stop doing this. The murder of those 2 children in Warrington was a wake-up call for those who support the nationalist cause, who support the cause of unity, yeah, and it brought them to the table. And what happened at that point is the British government was ready to listen. So you need to have these opportunities where people are willing to talk and listen to each other, and you have to grab them.
So this is interesting. Now we're going to continue with this particular matter, but right now, as Brother Abdul Mitta said, we are at the final phase, and the current situation is nationalistic, settler colonial ideologies kicking in, and it's at the final phase. And this is where we are. Total systemic persecution going on for many, many, many years. 75 years it started, and it's not stopping. In fact, it's escalated, the situation is. And how are we all going to stop this? If we don't do anything and we continue to allow this to happen, then we are explicit and we are making statements of intent. Our politicians are doing that, and everybody who's involved in this process is explicit in genocide, being party to genocide. Do you agree with that,
They've
Abdul
signed
Mita?
up to it, unashamedly naked. They've signed up to it. Where does Israel get its budget from?
Okay, now
where does it get its arms from?
I want to take it back now, Abdul Mita and Patrick, to our local city. Now, all our cities in England are in the same predicament. Our inner cities are predominantly ethnic. In Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, Leicester. Now, we have a situation here where every councillor sitting in the council is under pressure. Do I resign? Do I stay on? And in another 3 months, when everything is watered down, things will return to normal. What do you think, Abdul Mita?
Look, if you're a politician with any amount of decency in you, right? Any amount of decency, you would stand up for this cause. This is genocide, this is ethnic cleansing, this is the murder of innocents, children, by the thousands. Resign and force the traditional political parties to back down. That's the only way you're going to stop it. And you're not going to stop it by talking anymore. Right?
Now,
all talk is done. We've spoken about this over and over and over again.
Okay.
It's been going on for 50 years. Take a stand. Doesn't matter who you are. You don't need to be a Muslim. You don't need to be, brown, white, or any color. Right? If you have any amount of decency in you, walk away from these political parties. Let's get together, like Patrick said, what they did in Northern Ireland, right? And let's have a real discussion. Right now, even if you speak about Palestine, from Football Association is writing to all the football clubs not to discuss this issue. You can't have Palestinian flags in football stadiums in England at all, right? The exception being Celtic, where the fans have defied the Football Association and UEFA.
Now,
sorry, one more thing, right? The Education Secretary has actually written to every school in the UK, right, asking the teachers to bring to the attention of the students that Hamas is a terrorist organization and the Palestinians are not wholly innocent in all of this. This is policy. This is policy.
So this is going very far now. When the schools are involved, you can't wear a badge, you can't wear anything with the colors on there.
And we live in a free country.
Yeah, we're living in a democracy now. This is going too far, right? When we are getting our children involved and infested and selling them ideology. Now, already we have a situation, Patrick, where we are selling refugees. Well, not me and you, but refugees are being sold to another country to wipe off their debt, so that they can take all the refugees. Now, how about if I throw something in the bag here, Patrick? Do you think we should bring these refugees here in England? Like we did that for the Ukrainians?
I think this country has a long and proud history of there has been a long and proud history of the people of this country opening its doors to refugees. Be it the kinder transport of Jews in the run-up to the Second World War. And if you look at the same newspapers today, which are attacking the Palestinian people, they were the same newspapers that complained that Jews were pouring into this country before Hitler went on his murderous rampage.
This is a message.
And there were people in this country who took in those Jewish families. And we see with the Ukrainian refugees, there was a generosity of spirit. And I think absolutely. But actually, ultimately, I don't want there to be any Palestinian refugees in this country. I want the Palestinian people to have the right to return and have their own country. But in the interim, if they need refuge, I think we should offer it.
So we got a problem there. They're born there, but they can't have no rights, right, at all. So a settler will come in from New York and he's straight in. He'll chuck out a Palestinian. He'll take his house over, right? So the world has to wake up to this, that this genocide The whole concept of genocide is what we are looking to break throughout the world, not only in Palestine, but we have crises all over in many countries. There are 5 million refugees currently in just one part of Syria. There are refugees at the border of Somalia and Ethiopia. There are refugees everywhere, and they are being slaughtered everywhere. So we have to draw a balance between the Ukrainians at war and also the Palestinians. Now, one message has just come in that if you take any refugees into England, our Home Secretary will send them to Rwanda.
Yeah.
So you see, this is how fast people are thinking.
Cruella de Vil is going to send them to Rwanda because she's obviously got beaten in court here.
Yeah.
So that, the refugees, the repatriation from refugees in the UK to Rwanda has been suspended.
That's right.
So look, again,
So we're going to move on. We're going to come back to local situation here now. I'm going to go straight into it. We have two parts of our city that we are focusing on today, is Leicester East and Leicester South. Yes? So this matter is relevant to what is happening currently in Palestine. Why is it relevant, Patrick?
It's relevant because the people who live in Leicester East and Leicester South, and I'd say also Leicester West, the people are concerned about this issue. 75% of people want a ceasefire. This is the top ranking news story. Every single day you go and you watch it. That's why it matters, because people care.
So life of a child matters more than me having to worry about Keir Starmer, that is losing councillors up and down the country, and there's dissent. And councillors, I've been researching to know that they've been threatened with deselection. So what's going on, Patrick? You are a councillor. Enlighten us.
Well, when I'd served as a councillor, Labour councillor for 20 years, and what happened earlier this year is I was interviewed over Zoom by people who lived in London, and I was told I wasn't fit to be stand for the Labour Party in May. I didn't accept that decision. I switched parties to the Green Party. I would recommend anybody to join the Green Party. It's a very open party. It accords with all the values that I live in Highfields. It accords with all the values of me, of my friends and my neighbours. And I stood for election.
So a message for you, Patrick, is please ask Patrick if the Green Party have agreed to a ceasefire.
The Green Party have called for a ceasefire. I've sent it to yourself and to others on WhatsApp. The message can go around. I have a personal message. If you look at my statement on Twitter and Facebook, I've called for a ceasefire. I've called out the collective punishment as a war crime. If people wish for me to establish my personal position, I'm happy to do so. The national position of the Green Party is to call for a ceasefire, and again, that can be.
So I'm going to put a difficult question to you, Abdul Mita, if you can join me in this question to Patrick together. So I don't want to put you under pressure, but I want to ask you a question, Patrick. It's a personal one. If you were there today in the council, what would you have done in this situation? What would you have done?
Before I went over to the Green Party, I was drifting away within the Labour Party. The Labour Party, as it is today, wasn't the party that I joined back in 1989. Some people would say the Labour Party's never been good, but I believed in it. I worked hard for it. I spent hours and hours working for it because I believed it was a force for good. It has now become captured by a London-based elite who don't care about Leicester. All they see is they come to Leicester, they pick up their votes, and then they swan off back down to London. It's become remote, it's become controlled by a central elite. It is no longer the vehicle for change that it once was. And therefore, I think if I were still a Labour councillor at this point, I think this would be the final straw, and I'd have quit the Labour Party.
You would have quit for this current situation, genocide?
In 2014, I had the privilege and burden of going and visiting the West Bank, visiting Jerusalem. And once you've been to Palestine and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. The injustice, and my family background is, all of my family is Irish. The Irish affinity with the Palestinians is great because we had our struggle with colonial powers. Yeah, and it is a crying shame that we thought a way of working, which happened 170 years ago, starvation, suppression, is happening today. We can see it on our TV screens, and yet so many people don't do anything about it. It's a disgrace.
So currently there are a lot of distractions and people are swayed the other way. They're confused. People don't really know the reality of what is actually going on under the table. When you have a tree, you see the branches, but you don't see the roots. So everything that's going on is happening down below. And so much news is coming out, which is further exasperated. Yeah, we got a call. Yes, put him through. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Yes,
Assalamu
good evening.
alaikum.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm well. Your question is, we got to go straight into it because we don't have much time.
Well, my question is really with regards to the situation that's happening in Gaza, this horrendously sad situation, is really about what we can do to be able to be effective in this country. We've been on protest, we've been on vigils, and we've let this government know where we stand with this issue. The important thing now, immediate ceasefire. And the government is not listening. And the Labour Party is not listening. The Labour Party wants a pause in this war. They don't want a ceasefire. And several Labour MPs have been voicing their concerns. Some top Labour MPs and leaders, Sadiq Khan and Anas Sarwar.
Okay, with respect, we've been over this and we all know about this, so let's get straight to the point now.
The question is, when are more Labour councillors and MPs going to be standing down from the Labour Party in opposition to the current policy of Keir Starmer, a friend of Israel, and be able to stand as either independents or join another party that's like the Green Party, for example, that can advocate better the demands of those who are calling for fairness and a ceasefire.
Okay, Abdul Bitta, can you answer that for him now?
Look, I've been advocating this for a long time, for 20 years, okay? So I'm not going to bore you with what we kind of tried to do 20 years ago, but for us as a kind of a religious minority, Muslims specifically, we've got to disengage from the mainstream political parties. And we've got to basically start on our own path, whether it be on local election, general election. And I know Patrick here and a few other people would disagree, right? Because Greens are a fairly new political party.
Force.
Well, I won't call it a force. They're a new political party in a recent, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years, right? Labour were in government when the Balfour Declaration was announced, etc. So look, these politicians are not going to listen to us, right? They don't care. They really don't care. As far, we are now, if you're a Muslim, right, with all the Islamophobia industry that has been rampant for the last 20 years, you're effectively a second-class citizen, right? There are some people who are more equal than others, and we are not in that grouping. So if you look at the demographics,
it's quite evident from what they've been able to show.
They're naked about it. They're completely.
Okay, I'm going to swing it over to Patrick now. What is the affinity and the marriage between the Muslim community and the Labour Party in the inner cities? They fall out, they make up. What do you say?
I think there was genuinely a time when a lot of it is about class. The Labour Party was based in the trade union movement, was based in the workers. Yeah, the people who live in the inner cities are workers. Yeah, and that class thing and the fact that people coming in as migrants to this country had to work their way up. That was where the affinity was. The Labour Party has lost its connection with the Muslim community, as it has lost its connection with working class communities. It no longer represents it. The at the end of the day, you will see carefully crafted statements from people like John Ashworth, which tries to fool you. And there was a quote in The Guardian today from a Labour insider that said Keir Starmer's speech made it look like he cared about the Palestinian people. And look at those words carefully. He made it look like he cared. There was a leak of a first draft of his speech. The first draft of his speech, it's on the Politico website, did not mention Palestine once.
And he mentioned the word equal twice. But there is no equal, Keir Starmer. If you're listening in right now, equal has 5 letters and you're abusing them. This is what one message.
They're just hypocrites.
Yeah.
They're just hypocrites.
So going forward now, the marriage, I was told by another politician yesterday that they fall out, then they write a few letters here and there, and then they're back together again, just like a woman at home who's abused by the husband, and he says sorry, and in this case, a red rosette is going to come out and things going to go back to normal again. So this is a problem.
Your caller said we've protested and we've gone on marches, and there will be more marches to go. What do we do? Listen, I've been a councillor. You can sit there, and if nobody gets in touch with you, it's quite nice. It's quite comfortable. You see the world as you see it. What people need to do is they need to contact their elected representatives, be it councillors, be it their members of parliament, and keep on at them. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get in their email boxes, write to them, meet with them. Unless you do that, they will ignore you.
Abdul Mitta?
Yeah, look.
They do ignore you even when you write to them.
We've been doing this.
By the way, they do ignore you even when you write to them, as I've experienced.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time, right? We've been appealing to councillors, we've been appealing to members of parliament. Let me take you back to 2004, right? Where you had a meeting after the Iraq war had kicked off. And the suggestion to our community at that time was disengage from the mainstream political parties, but they kind of refused because there's a lot of people who are invested into these political parties. I'm not going to go into the details, but when I say invested, I think you can read between the lines. So in 2004, for the first time in 58 years, Labour lost overall control. It was a hung council, right? I think it was, I'm not 100% sure about the numbers, but 4 Muslim councillors were elected on the Labour ticket, and I think there was 3 on the Liberal Democrat ticket. Okay, now remember, it was a hung council, no overall control, for the first time in 58 years, for the first time since the Second World War.
In the city of Leicester.
In the city of Leicester, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick. Yeah, correct. So, now, because we're a religious minority in this country, we are never going to hold power, right? What we can achieve is that we can hold the balance of power. Now, we missed an opportunity in 2004, 19 years ago, where the 7 councillors, if they had gone on an independent ticket, right, we would have held the balance of power. Okay? Now, this is the kind of thinking that people, gets people, for some reason, Malcolm X said that, there will be a time when the truth will become a lie and a lie will become a truth. We're living in that time now. Everything that comes out on the mainstream media from these politicians is a lie, right? There is no point anymore writing because that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity. Stop this insanity. Let's forge our own path.
Right, we are out of time now, so we're going to see some. You said your closure, Patrick. If you can say your closure, and we can close the program now.
Yeah, I reiterate that the immediate need is for a ceasefire, and the longer term need is for a peaceful settlement that involves both Israelis and Palestinians.
Reconciliation.
But for that to happen, Palestinians have to be put at the center of the solution.
One democratic state, equal rights for everyone.
No, that we know that that's not in our hands. Everyone's got 1 state or 2 states. But we're going to close the program now to say that stop the genocide and injustice, truth. Who is the enemy of truth is injustice, right? Injustice is the enemy of truth, and that's what I want all of you to take away and think about. Think about this very, very carefully, And also, let's all pray together for all these children being killed, all the families on both sides. Stop the genocide. Thank you very much.